Welcome into the lounge presented by DraftKings. I'm Garrett Downey here with Clifton Brown, and today we are really fired up to be joined by Coach Jon Gruden, who's been out here at practice the last couple of days. Coach Gruden, thank you so much for the time. What have you thought of the time that you spent here watching practice and getting with these coaches?
Well, I love football, you know that, and there's no better place to be than the Baltimore Ravens. Ozzie Newsome, I got a chance to see him. Coach Harbaugh's 17th season. Just a great history here. They're reconstructing the building. Just a lot of great days ahead, I think, for the Ravens. It's been a lot of fun. Coach
Harbaugh said that when you walked out to the field, you said it's like football heaven out there.
I've never seen a facility like this. It's in the middle of a most beautiful part of the world. They've done an incredible job servicing these players. I mean, this is football heaven. The fields are immaculate. The facility, tremendous. Look where we are here, man. I mean, this is something else. And it's a product of winning. It's a credit to them.
Fans often ask us, what do you see? What are you seeing at OTAs, and what are you looking for? Who looks good? As a coach, in general, what are you looking for to see from players at OTAs, from the young players and the vets, and what have you seen so far? Any observations from this Ravens team?
Well, number one, I look for participation, and they have great participation. Lamar wasn't here, but he's been here, and it's a great opportunity for these other quarterbacks to get up to speed and get ready for training camp. But great participation. They got a great staff. I got to sit in there with the defense and see Zach Orr. This guy's for real, man. This is guy's on the rise as a defensive coach in this league. Their offensive staff now, Todd Monken's second year, third year, really good coaches and a lot of people in the strength room. It's just a dynamite operation, and I learned a lot. If I ever do get a chance to coach, I'm going to steal a few of these ideas because they're really classy the way they do business.
Well, Coach Harbaugh joked, he said it was great having you here, but they did not give you the playbook. So I think that he wants to hold some things back. He doesn't want you to know everything.
We're not running your plays anyway. No one can run Lamar Jackson's plays. They could give us the playbook and tell us the plays. You still can't defend that man. But what's really exciting is the emergence of this offensive line. You know, the offensive line last year had a lot of moving pieces, a lot of first-year starters. The right tackle, Rosengarten, looks good. The right guard is a monster. And Linderbaum is, I think, as good a center as there is in the league. And it's going to be an exciting operation, I think, when the pads come on.
Coach, you're a football savant. You know this game obviously so well. Put into perspective how special Lamar Jackson is.
I can't do it. You know, you can run any play you can dream up, anything, and he can do it. And you can block everybody perfectly and enjoy great execution, and you can miss every block and still enjoy great execution. He's an unbelievable game day performer. He's an Iceman. The big moments are his moments. He can win in the pocket. He can tear you up. And if he takes off outside the pocket, God help you. He's a legitimate superstar. He's the top of the food chain in the NFL, and I'm sorry I missed him on this trip, but I did get a chance to talk to him, and I told him T. Martin's a lot better coach when he's out there practicing.
Coach, you were in a situation where you came to Tampa, took over a team that was on the verge, knocking on the door, and were able to get them over the hump. You know, Ravens have been knocking on the door for a few years. We're always hearing, what do they need? If you sat in a room in front of them and said, hey, this is what some keys to getting over that hump, what would you say?
Well, I think we stay in shallow water. We don't overthink this. They were good enough to win the Super Bowl last year. Mm-hmm. We don't need to be deep and philosophical and come up with 48 reasons or 48 motivational tactics. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing, and great things will be in store. Stay healthy, take care of each other in training camp, knock people's ass off when the games start, and take care of the football, take care of number 8. And I'll tell you, I was really impressed with your new kicker today, too.
Yeah.
I know he's got big shoes to fill, but the young man hit some pressure kicks today, and there was no doubt about him.
I think one of them was 60 yards.
Yeah, I mean, where do they find these players? You know, it's a credit to the whole operation, the scouting department, the coaching staff, the way they develop players. The best player I got was Darren Waller, and I stole him off your practice squad.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm a big Raven fan.
You changed the way that the rules here as it relates to practice squad players. Now they don't practice on the field because you took Darren Waller.
I see Ozzie Newsome, And the first thing he says, Grudog, you changed the way we do business. We're in 2018. We don't have a lot of speed. All our receivers are hurt. I'm very depressed. And my offensive coordinator says, who the hell is that guy? I look up, and it's the most beautiful guy I've ever seen. So we claimed him. And 2 years later, he breaks Tim Brown's receiving record. Darren Waller was a superstar for us. And I see a lot of guys. I see Charlie Kolar as a young tight end who could really emerge as a player. I think there's some really good players. Justice Hill is a guy that can make plays. They do a great job of scouting and delivering players for these coaches to work with.
You know this team well. I mean, Coach Harper even said that you spent some time watching film before you even got here on this team. Do you, when I look at this roster, Cliff and I were talking about this yesterday and just said, like, there's nothing they need. Like, you look and you're like, where are they weak? And it just feels like there's no spot where they're weak. The roster just feels so well constructed and ready to go. Do you see that when you look at this team?
Well, they have questions they have to answer. They've got to figure out who's the other linebacker next to Roquan. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be Simpson? Mm-hmm. You know, he's got to go out and prove that he's the man. And that'll be interesting. Who's going to be the corner opposite Wiggins?
Yeah.
You know, they have some competition there. Stevens left.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to answer that question. Who's the third defensive tackle? That's what I want to find out. When Travis Jones comes out of the game, who's going to come in there and take some critical snaps? And can the kicker do it in cold weather when he has to, like these Stover did and Tucker did for so many years? But I have no doubt in him. You know, I have a lot of confidence this is going to be one hell of a football team.
We've seen the Ravens offense take off last couple of years with Todd Monken and the weapons he's working with. Obviously, you're known as a great play caller and offensive mind. With the personnel they have, is there a ceiling for this Ravens, or do you feel like even after what they did last year, there's another level they can get to?
I believe they can score on any possession from anywhere on the field. They have Zay Flowers, who's a dynamic route runner. I think if he was there in the playoffs, I think his loss was a big loss for Baltimore. The threat of Zay Flowers opens up a lot of things. This guy's an emerging young receiver. But I do think, to your point, the sky is the limit, provided they don't get full of themselves and read their clippings and worry about statistics. Just worry about winning the game. I think if they keep that in mind, I think they're going to win a hell of a lot of games.
You've had some battles, you know, with this team, this organization, but you and Coach Harbaugh have this respect for each other. He talked really highly of you and his respect that he has for you. Tell me about your guys' relationship.
Well, we're both coaches' sons. My dad coached against his dad many years growing up. I think we've known since we were 8 or 9 or 10 years old we wanted to be coaches. And I think there's a certain mutual respect because of that. We love football. We'd probably sacrifice anything you could let us do. We'd rather be on the field coaching than doing anything else.
Yeah.
I think our love for football is mutual, and I think that's really where the respect comes from. But he is something else behind the scenes. For all the Raven fans that haven't had a chance to see him with his players, he's in the defensive meeting, he's in the offensive meeting, he's given them great life lessons, and he's sincere about it. He means it. And he's got great eye contact from his players. They trust him. It's a real unbelievable relationship that he has with this Raven football team. And I think that's really the secret sauce and why they're so good.
Last one, Coach, is this that I have. We always talk about your Gruden Grinders. You used to do that on Monday Night Football. There's some Gruden Grinders out there on that field.
Well, come on. I mean, I met my number one Gruden Grinder, and I've named the Gruden Grinder the Pat Ricard Award. I'm going to hand out a trophy that looks like a block of Pat Ricard. You know, I don't think anybody realizes what this guy does. I call him the straw man, and I would appreciate if you guys refer to Pat Ricard as the straw man. Here's the straw that stirs the drink for this Raven offense. I mean, the two tight ends, Likely and Andrews, 17 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 1,900 yards rushing. Lamar has 4,500 yards passing and 1,000 rushing. But when you watch it carefully, Ricard is the lead blocker on the isolation for Derrick Henry. He kicks out on the power play. He pass protects against Myles Garrett on some of these play-action passes. He cross-sifts. I mean, he should be considered in the Ring of Honor. He's a Marshall Yonda type badass. I love him. And he is the straw man.
I can't say anything else on that.
I'm telling you, I'm going to do a cut up on him, and I'm going to try to make sure everybody votes for him into the Pro Bowl. For him to not be a Pro Bowl fullback, it's a crime of the century. It's not even close. But I love meeting him today, and I'm going to continue to preach his praises.
Awesome. Well, I know Pat will be fired up about that.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's great to sit down. Thank you so much, Coach.
I will say this, too, the 2000 game, when I was coaching the Raiders for the right to go to the Super Bowl, that Baltimore Raven defense came in and just knocked us out. Mm-hmm. And it was the greatest defensive team I have ever seen. And I've always used the Ravens since that moment as the measuring stick for me, our offensive system. If we're any good, we got to prove it against the Ravens. And I think that's the most respect I can give this Raven team is they are a measuring stick for the rest of the league. If you want to be a good team, go beat Baltimore. And I think the Ravens understand that, and I think they welcome that challenge.
That's awesome. Well,
all right.
Really
nice
appreciate it,
you guys.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Good luck to you.
Welcome back into the Lounge Podcast. We are coming to you from the SeatGeek studio. We want to mention our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. They are an official sports betting partner of the Baltimore Ravens. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Well, awesome sitting down with Coach Gruden. I mean, you just sit down with him and you can see the enthusiasm, the knowledge, the history. Even when I was just walking back on his way out, he was bringing up players that have been here 15, 20 years ago. He's talking about Kelly Gregg and different nose tackles. He's like, you've had some great nose tackles, Kelly Gregg and Brandon Williams. Right. And, that's the depth of knowledge, that he has, and the enthusiasm is no question. There's no question about that.
He's probably watching as much film now as he did when he was coaching. He's also been in television. He knows the league and players inside out. And coaches, even now, in this situation, a coach with as much experience as John Harbaugh wants to pick Jon Gruden's brain about what he sees about the Ravens. That lets you know how much respect that he has for Jon Gruden's football mind. And, yeah, I mean, I remember him as a Philly guy, a young coach in Philadelphia on Andy Reid's staff, and, knowing kind of that he was going to be a guy who was probably going to be a head coach. And it was no surprise to anyone when he became a young head coach. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. And yeah, I mean, he talks about the past, the present, and the future of football. He can do all of that.
He talks about it as well as anybody you're going to find,
right?
Which is really cool. And I think Pat Ricard should hire him as his personal PR. I mean,
he loves Pat.
There's no question.
But the way he explained all the things that Pat does for the Ravens offense, I think was fascinating. Like, I think that sometimes, even though we have an appreciation for Patrick Ricard, when you think about all the ways in which he's used, and then that took my mind back to when Todd Monken became offensive coordinator, people were asking him if he could find a way to use Patrick Ricard.
Yeah.
And now
he's a straw man.
Exactly. He's the straw man. He's a straw man. And yeah, I mean, yes, he's another Gruden strength, as is a John Harbaugh strength, and any great coach's strength, using the personnel you have. When you have a player like a Patrick Ricard, who a lot of teams aren't even using fullbacks, they find a way to make him a Pro Bowl player and an impact player. That's what great coaches do. They adjust to their roster and get the most out of it.
Yeah. So just really enjoyed sitting down with him and talking ball for a few minutes. That was great to have the opportunity to do that. And he was watching practice the last couple of days of OTAs this week. And so had a chance just to get to know this team and get a feel for what this Ravens team is going to be. Obviously, he has belief and optimism about what the Ravens can do. And I thought he made a good point when you asked him the question about getting over the hump.
Right.
And I agree with that take 100%, which is like the Ravens, it's not some deep philosophical thing. They have the pieces, they have the team. It's a matter of doing it. It's a matter of playing your best in that moment on a cold night in Buffalo, wherever the game is. Like it comes down to playing your best in that moment, and there's not necessarily some higher, level philosophical element to the whole thing.
Nope. And that belief that the Ravens can do it resonates through the players and the coaching staff. They don't have to be convinced that they can do it. That's all outside noise. They know that they're good enough. And you just keep knocking on the door. And Jon Gruden was in that situation where he took over a team that had been close. Tony Dungy replaced a great coach who ended up winning a Super Bowl in Indianapolis. But Jon Gruden, a different voice, coming to a team that had Super Bowl aspirations, was able to get it done. And the Ravens' window, talk about, how big is their window? It's wide open. It remains wide open. And I think it's going to be wide open for a few years. So walking through it is the last piece of the puzzle, but they have everything they need to do that. And Coach Gruden feels the same way.
So I want to talk about what we saw at practice and some of the takeaways that we had. Now 2 weeks of OTAs in the books, one more to go, and then there's a mandatory minicamp on the back end of that. So we are nearing the end of the offseason program before the team opens training camp in late July. One of the things that I think this week that stood out to me, especially in the practice that we watched on the end of the week on Friday, is Nate Wiggins. We sat down with him for the podcast last week. He talked about adding 10 pounds and wanting 10 plus turnovers this year. So big aspirations for him. Well, he came up with one of those turnovers in practice, and I think he looks really, really good.
Oh, he does. And he's so talented. And on the podcast, he talks so much about being a professional and working on his technique, that's the next step for him. He has the talent to do things already in this league, as he proved as a rookie, but now he kind of wants to put the polish on the race car. And I think technique is what he's honing in on. And, he knows the defense now so much better than he did as a rookie. The learning process is over. So very impressive as a rookie. I'm very impressed with how he looks. I think the 10 pounds will help him. It'll be interesting to see if he can hold it, because he's one of the few guys I deal with who talks about, that he doesn't like to eat that much. Right. And, you look at his frame, he's not the type of guy who picks up weight easily, but if he can keep the weight on, I think it'll help him. But even if he doesn't, I expect Nate Wiggins, I think, he has all pro capability. It's not even too early to me to start talking about him in that way. He's just that talented.
Yeah, the technique piece is interesting because we even talked with him about it. Like, he is so athletic that I think that he could lean on that a little bit more, especially in college. And I think, honestly, early on last year, he tried to do that at times where he has the speed to catch up with guys and he's so sticky in coverage that he could just lean on that raw athleticism. But that's not going to work long-term in the NFL. And Nate talked about realizing that as a rookie, and that's where the technique comes into play. So if you can mesh this great athleticism and length and speed along with great technique, and that's where I think he can really take off. And that's what he's working on.
Yes, I also thought it was interesting that his locker's been moved next to Marlon Humphrey. I don't know whose idea that was, but I think
he just came in one day and noticed that. Yeah. But he did say he went to Marlon this offseason and said, "Show me how to watch film."
That's a great teammate to be talking to every day. Marlon has the whole package, technique and athletic ability, and obviously can play so many spots defensively. Who knows? That could be part of Nate Wiggins' trick bag, especially moving down the road. But that's a great vet to learn from, along with all the other players in that room. But Marlon, I think, yes, can really impart some knowledge on Nate to kind of make his progression quicker. And his teammates, they all see how talented Nate is. I mean, so he's a guy, and you want to help all your teammates, but when you see someone with that much potential, you're more than willing to help him because you know that could raise him to another level.
Yeah. Another guy in the secondary who had a nice practice, especially at the end of the week, is Malachi Starks, the first-round pick, had an interception during 7-on-7 drills. And so it's good to see him. We see this with rookies a lot. You come in, your head's spinning a little bit. You got to get a feel for the defense and what you're doing and what's happening. And you're just learning, you're just getting a sense of what to do. And then over time, you get a little bit more comfortable. Your confidence grows. You have an understanding of what the defense is doing, what to expect from the offensive side of the ball. And I think we're starting to see that with Malachi. This guy's taken first-team reps basically since the time he stepped on campus. And to see him come up with a pick was nice, and I think that he's trending in the right direction.
Yes, I agree with all of that. And I keep going back to with Starks that he, to me, has been through this before as a college freshman at Georgia. I mean, he started as a freshman at Georgia and never lost a job. That's not like doing that at a normal place.
Yeah.
Not many people do that. So he stepped into a high-level program. They didn't need to play him to be good. He was actually surprised. I've heard Kirby Smart talk about, how quickly he developed to the point where he was the best player. They put him out there, and he never looked back. He's trying to do the same thing here. Come in his first year, learn quickly, be an impact player right away. That's what is expected at being a first-round pick, but it's not easy to do, and the stakes are higher when you're joining a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl. He looks more than ready to handle all of that. Everyone knows how, the great reputation he has for being a hard worker, a guy who loves football, learns quickly. You're seeing all of those things already. So, I don't want to blow it up too big, too early, but yes, I mean, Malachi Starks is looking like, everything that was advertised.
So anything else stand out to you and when you were watching practice the last few days? What were some of the other big takeaways that you had?
Well, the one player who I don't have a Gruden Grinder, but if I was giving an OTA MVP at this point,
okay,
I might go with Tez Walker.
Okay.
Devontae Walker has looked really good to me and been consistent. Like he has a good day and then he comes back the next day and continues to look good. He had a nice catch today for a touchdown, or Friday in OTAs. I feel like he's a player that, even though, it's going to be hard for him to get reps as stacked as the Ravens are at wide receiver, he definitely looks like a better player than he was last year. And that's what you want to see, the trajectory with a young player. And, unfortunately, you never know. One snap could change where he falls on the depth chart. So if he's called upon, no matter how much the Ravens want to play him, he looks like a player who's ready to play more. And if he steps on the field, he can make plays.
One guy who I think has caught my attention is because he's getting a lot of reps has been Cooper Rush. With Lamar Jackson was not at practice over the course of this week of OTAs. And so that opened the opportunity for Cooper Rush to take a ton of snaps, which I think is good for him as being a quarterback that's coming to a new team, new system, has to build this chemistry with these receivers. And so I was encouraged by that. I mean, he operates at an efficient level. Like he's played a lot of football, especially as a backup quarterback. So he started a bunch of games, and I think he's fully capable if called upon. But I've been encouraged by just seeing the way that he operates the offense, which I think is kind of what you're looking for at this stage of the game, like the efficiency of operation. He's doing that at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Mungan mentioned those things that, this guy's a pro, an experienced player who has had success as a backup quarterback. So there's no reason to think that, a guy who was a successful backup quarterback in Dallas won't be one here. But it is a new system, and it is with new players around him. And yes, this is a good time for him to get acclimated here. And, he's going to go through, growing pains from time to time, but he looks good out there in that he'll know the offense inside and out. He's been in these situations before. And yeah, I mean, he's a guy that, even though he knows he may not play a lot or at all, if he does, I think that he'll be ready.
Yeah. Two other guys that I'll point to, both in somewhat similar situations. The first one is Keaton Mitchell and Zay Flowers. Last year, Keaton, they're both coming off of injuries from last year. Keaton played last season, but was never really 100%. And to me, he looks like he's back. It looks like he's got the burst. We've mentioned this before. He just looks like he's back to the speed, playing with the speed that he had as a rookie, which is awesome to see. Mm-hmm. And I just think that and he's catching the ball really well out of the backfield. He had a play today that was a nice wheel route where he made a great catch in the back of the end zone. Those hands as a running back are, if he can really impact things in the passing game, that's going to open up even more opportunities for him, which I think he's showing that ability. So I've been really impressed with him. And then with Zay Flowers, Coach Gruden talked about how his absence was probably downplayed a little bit in that Buffalo game. Mm-hmm. This was a Pro Bowl receiver who was not on the field. The number one receiver, Pro Bowl season, was not on the field. And that's a big loss. And any team losing your top receiver going into a divisional playoff game, it's going to be tough to overcome that. And so what I'm encouraged by with Zay is when I watch him at practice, I see a guy that, like, the knee injury doesn't seem to even be lingering at all. No. There was a play on Thursday where he took the ball kind of on a reverse, and then he was doing the joystick thing, bouncing all over the field. He was having fun with it. But like, even just seeing that was to me a good sign. Like, okay, the knee injury, it's a thing of the past.
Right. Rearview mirror with the knee injury for Zay, which is great to see. And yes, as Coach Gruden said, it's not only the plays that he makes, it's the threat of Zay Flowers. Sure, the Bills, it was much, now I'm not going to say much, but easier to game plan for that game without Zay Flowers being in the lineup. He's such a threat. I mean, he's a guy who can hurt you in so many ways. Even if you can't throw it to him, if you just get the ball in his hands, he can make a big play. And he's another player who is ascending in my eyes. And I think that, he'll learn from DeAndre Hopkins. It's good for Zay. He said that. He loves having a guy like that with him that he can learn from, a vet who's proven it in so many ways. The chemistry with Lamar and Zay, which has always been good, should keep rising. So, yeah, I mean, Zay and then Keaton, we've talked about him before. Yes, he looks so much healthier than he was at the end of last season. It's very common for the second year after a knee injury for the player to really show you that he's always back. That first year is tough. It was tough for Keaton. He's smiling now. He's quick. He's catching the football, as you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, I think add him to the mix is one of the Ravens' many, many playmakers.
Yeah, this team is going to be fun to watch on both sides of the ball, and they got a bunch of guys who can take it to the house whenever they get the ball in their hands. So those are our thoughts from watching OTAs. And again, thanks to Coach Gruden for joining us. Really enjoyed hearing his insight, and he is high on this team and what the Ravens have the potential to accomplish this season. As always, you can email us at thelounge@ravens.nfl.net. Thank you so much for watching and for listening, and we will talk with you again soon.